Well, good morning, class. Happy Monday and the first Monday of October. Hope everyone's doing well. It's starting to get cold up here in St. Louis. But my heart was warmed this weekend watching our Cowboys beat Baylor on the road. What an amazing victory! And yeah, I wish I could be in Stillwater this weekend for the Texas Tech game. But again, I hope a lot of you will be able to go and yeah, cheer the Pokes on. So yeah, because definitely I am. Well, congratulations for completing the first exam. I know everybody turned it in by yesterday, so I will do my best to try to have your exams graded by the end of this week and back to you, hopefully by Thursday or Friday at the latest. So you'll have your exams back. Because again, I remember being a student myself. Nothing more frustrating than taking an exam and wondering forever, when it's going to get graded. But again, my goal is to have it back to you by Thursday, if not Friday, later this week. So. Now, with that, a couple things that I wanted to discuss as we move into kind of the second phase of the class, so to speak. We've been in class about 7 weeks now. So yeah, I think we're starting to kind of get in a routine, and hopefully the material's starting to make sense. Hopefully the lectures that I do, it's starting to build upon itself. And again, as I've always said, if you have questions or if there's any concepts you don't understand, I'm always happy to answer them. Shoot me an email, and again, I'd be happy to go through the details with you. And if we need to have a phone call, I'm happy to do that as well, because I want to make sure that you're not wondering what anything means. So please don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions about the course material. So I went ahead and posted already information for this week for week 7. You have chapter 7, the PowerPoint, the video that I do, and then there is an assignment this week where 10 points, a discussion forum on what we call two-tier wages, and again that's posted in the modules. A couple of things that I want to mention as far as discussion assignments. Again, I graded one from last week, and again, I left a lot of you some notes. Again, for the vast majority of you, your initial post was excellent. It's lengthy. You give me a lot of good detail, and again, the more you post, the more information I prefer. I usually try to give you a word limit. I'm okay if you go above that word limit. So don't feel like if I say 750 words, if you go 751, you're in trouble. No, if you need to go above it, go above it. Try not to go too far above it, but if you need to go above it, that's perfectly fine. Where I tend to have issues is if I give you 750 words, for example, and you write 200 or 250, because that gives you 500 words that you could add more detail, bring in outside sources. As I told you, I love it when students bring in outside sources. So whenever you're doing your post, or if you're responding to the post of your classmates, cite the textbook that we're reading. Throw in a YouTube video. Bring in 2 or 3 articles that you've read on the outside that relate to that discussion. If you do that, I always give extra points for students who take the time to really bring in outside sources and cite this, because it shows me that you're trying to you're learning the material, and when you post it, somebody else is going to learn from that, and it kind of snowballs from there, and it makes it a richer, fuller discussion. So just keep that in mind whenever you're doing your initial post. And again, make sure that you pay attention to the due dates, because that your initial post is almost always going to be due on Thursday night of that week, with 2 responses to your classmates due on Sunday. And make sure that you do 2 responses, because again, and to 2 different classmates, because I do pay attention to that. So if you only do 1 classmate, you're going to lose points, and if you don't do any classmates, you're only going to get half credit. So make sure you respond to at least 2 classmates. And speaking of responding to classmates, I left a lot of you a note about this. I noticed in the most recent discussion that a lot of you were just saying, "Hey, John, great job, loved your post," and then that was it. Or, "I read the same thing, I agree with everything you said, great job." Those don't give you any points. I went ahead and gave you the benefit of the doubt this time. But moving forward, you'll lose points if you have posts like that. I really want you to respond, accordingly, and really take what they wrote, what your classmate writes, break it down, add in additional comments that you have, cite some additional sources. Make sure because again, you get just as many points for that as you do on your original post. But just because you responded to 2 classmates doesn't mean you earn less points for that. Those are just as important as your initial post. So please make sure you're responding accordingly. So again, I gave you the benefit of the doubt this time around, but moving forward, you'll lose points if you don't really respond to them. Use those word limits that I give you and really respond to their responses. Additionally, there's a couple of assignments coming up in the next couple of weeks that I want to draw your attention to. First off is checkpoint number 1 of the course project. I posted that, about a month ago. The actual first one is due on October 14th. And actually, that is a Friday. That's one of our due dates that's not on a Thursday or a Sunday. So not this coming Friday, but next Friday, October 14th, is your project checkpoint number 1, worth 50 points. And again, I left the details in the assignment. It's very detailed, so you should know what to do. But if you're struggling, just shoot me an email, and again, I'm happy to answer questions. Well, I can't really, you can't just write everything, say, hey, Justin, does this look okay? I can do a quick overview to make sure, you're on the right track, but I can't give you too much critique until actually I grade it. So, but again, if you wanted just to check to see, if you're on the right track, I'm happy to do that for you. I did leave you a couple of examples, from previous semesters. One is an example that earned an A. So if you do it, similar to that, you'll probably do very well. The other example is one that earned a low C, maybe even a high D, because it was barely completed. So I provide those couple of examples so you can kind of know what I expect and what I'm looking for with checkpoint number 1. But again, make sure that you submit it by next Friday, October 14th, because you'll lose significant points if you don't submit it by the deadline. And finally, if you are in the graduate section, again, graduate section only, and then if you're in the graduate section, you have your first paper coming up later this month on October 23rd. So you still have about 20 days. But again, if you're in the graduate section, make sure that you get paper number 1 completed by October 23rd. And again, if you have questions on that, don't hesitate to let me know. So, well, that's it for this week, I think. Again, this week's 2-tier wages discussion. First post is due by this coming Thursday with 2 additional responses due on Sunday. And again, I will try to have your exams from last week graded by the end of this week. So, great to talk to everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. And if you have questions, don't hesitate to let me know. Thanks.